the skills that got you here are quietly expiring. And the replacement satisfying isn't what LinkedIn thinks it is. 2 years ago, a senior product manager at a Fortune 500 company got laid off. Not because she was bad at her job, she was actually one of the best on her team. But the company pivoted to AI-driven workflows, and her entire skill set became yesterday's news overnight. She sat in her car in the parking lot, staring at a cardboard box, wondering how 10 years of experience could feel so worthless so fast. If that story makes your stomach tighten, stay right here. Because today we are breaking down exactly how to make sure that never happens to you. Most people think staying relevant means constantly learning new things. That is only half the equation. The harder, messier part is unlearning what used to work. Think about Blockbuster. They had decades of retail expertise, massive brand recognition, stores on every corner. Netflix did not beat them with better stores, they made stores irrelevant. The same pattern plays out in careers every single day. A marketing manager who spent years mastering Facebook ads now watches TikTok rewrite the rules completely. A software developer who built their entire career on one framework wakes up to find employers want something different. The professionals who adapt fastest are not the ones who learn quickest. They are the ones willing to admit that what got them here will not get them there. A McKinsey report from 2023 found that 87% of companies said they already have skill gaps or expect them within the next few years. That gap is not just about missing skills, it is about people holding onto old ones too tightly. Notice a pattern among people who never seem to get left behind. They do not just go deep in one area and stop. They build skills at the edges, right where two fields overlap. A data analyst who also understands storytelling becomes indispensable in a way that a pure number cruncher never will. A project manager who learns basic automation can do in an afternoon what used to take a team a full week. These hybrid skill sets are almost impossible to replace because they are genuinely rare. Most people specialize and then stop. They become the best at one narrow thing and quietly pray that narrow thing stays valuable forever. That is a dangerous bet to make with your career. Instead, look at your core skill and ask yourself one honest question. What would make this twice as valuable if I combined it with something else? Maybe it is design thinking paired with engineering. Maybe it is finance combined with data visualization. The combination matters far more than the depth of either skill alone. Your resume tells people where you have been. Your network tells people where you are going. And in a fast-changing industry, where you are going matters so much more. The people who stay relevant are almost always deeply connected to others. Not in a schmoozy, collecting business cards at conferences way. They genuinely invest time in relationships with people who think differently than they do. When a major shift hits your industry, your network becomes your early warning system. Someone mentions a new technology over coffee. A former colleague shares an article that completely changes how you see your role. These small moments compound over time into something massive, almost like career insurance you never knew you were building. A LinkedIn survey found that 85% of jobs are filled through networking. But beyond job hunting, real relationships keep you plugged into what is changing before it ever shows up in the headlines. Every industry has a gap between the people building the future and the people running the present. If you can stand in that gap and translate between the two sides, you become the most valuable person in any room. Think about AI right now. Executives know they need it but genuinely do not understand how it works. Engineers understand the technology perfectly but cannot explain the business case to save their lives. The person who bridges that divide, who can sit in a strategy meeting and explain what the technology actually means for revenue, that person will never be irrelevant. This is not about becoming a deep technical expert overnight. It is about being curious enough to understand new developments and articulate enough to explain them in plain language. Translators do not just survive industry disruption. They lead through it, because when everything feels confusing, the person who makes things clear becomes absolutely essential. Credentials expire. Curiosity does not. The most relevant professionals I have ever worked with share one trait that stands above everything else: they are genuinely, almost annoyingly curious about the world around them. they read outside their field on purpose. They ask questions that seem basic but reveal surprisingly deep thinking. They experiment with new tools weeks before anyone tells them to. Google famously encouraged employees to spend 20% of their time on side projects. Gmail came out of that policy, and so did Google News. Curiosity, when given room to breathe, produces results that pure obligation never will. You do not need a company policy to start doing this yourself. Spend 30 minutes a week exploring something adjacent to your work that interests you. Watch a tutorial on a tool you have never touched. Read an article from an industry that is completely different from yours. Curiosity is a muscle, and the more you use it, the sharper your instincts become about what matters next. So take one action right now, before you close this video. Open a blank document and write down 3 skills that made you successful 5 years ago. Next to each one, write honestly whether that skill is growing in value, staying flat, or declining. Be brutally honest with yourself. If even one of those skills is declining, you have just found your starting point. Pick one new skill at the edge of your expertise and spend 30 minutes this week exploring it. Not a career overhaul, just 30 minutes of intentional curiosity. Because relevance is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is something you earn again, every single day. And honestly, you have already started just by watching this. I will see you in the next one. That's a wrap, thanks for watching. If this gave you one idea you can use today, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.